Hey, the Underground Railroad isn't a real railroad, it's just a metaphor.
After my father and I came back from digging outside, we decided to do some more research. We found that the closest location on the Underground Railroad to my house is the Asa Seymour House, Seymour Curtis House in Stratford, exactly 15.8 miles away from my house. The Underground Railroad was a path from the southern states to the northern states so the slaves would be free. This means that the Underground Railroad was not actually a railroad. The Underground Railroad was actually a system of tunnels that were used by slaves seeking freedom and the abolitionists that helped them. The people of the Underground Railroad used vocabulary like a railroad. For example, the free states were called freight routes and stops were called stations. The Underground Railroad was mostly in usage before the Civil War. This shows that this act was part of what forced the Civil War. There were about 100,000 freed slaves through the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad helped free a big number of slaves. The Underground Railroad's heaviest actions were in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and New York. All of these locations are either in the north or center of the country. There are a lot of abolitionists, including the names of William Still, Levi Coffin, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and John Brown. Harriet Tubman was a former slave. This means that she knows what it's like to go through the harsh work of being a slave. She came back to the South after being freed to help slaves. This showed that Harriet Tubman is willing to risk her life to help others. The United States respects Harriet Tubman so much that they decided to change the face of the $20 bill from Jackson to her. Still was also African American like Tubman. Still was born on October 7th, 1821, in New Jersey. Still was the youngest of 18 children and taught himself how to read and write. Still was the head of the Underground Railroad operations in Pennsylvania from 1852 to 1861. Still was the leader of the Philadelphia black community in the 1850s. Still was called the father of the Underground Railroad. He would free 50 slaves a month and keep record of. On to the abolitionist named Levi Coffin. Coffin was born on October 28, 1798, in North Carolina. Levi Coffin was a Quaker. This is important because Quakers in that time period were powerful people, especially in the North, and were extremely against slavery. Also, Coffin helped more than 3,000 slaves to escape. Another abolitionist by the name of John Brown was also in on the Underground Railroad. Brown was born on May 9th, 1800. He was born in Torrington, Connecticut. His home in Pennsylvania was a station on the Underground Railroad. Brown led a famous raid on Harper's Ferry in Virginia, where he, along with 16 other whites and 5 more blacks, took 60 people hostage. The abolitionist that got involved with the Underground Railroad was former slave Frederick Douglass. He directed the Rochester City Underground Railroad. Douglass escaped from slavery on September 3rd, 1838. Frederick Douglass was important to the operation because he was a former slave and knew exactly what these slaves were going through.